The Enclave was the self-proclaimed successor to the pre-war United States government, clinging to the ideals of a pure, unified America, made up of the remnants of America's elite military leaders and government officials who escaped the Great War's destruction. They survived in isolated, heavily fortified outposts. These individuals saw themselves as the last true Americans, and their primary goal was to reclaim the United States from the chaos left behind. Their presence extended across the wasteland, with bases and installations positioned in strategic locations. The Enclave's most concentrated forces historically lay in New California and the Capital Wasteland, while isolated contingents held positions like the White Spring Bunker in Appalachia. In the initial aftermath of the Great War, they had grand plans to continue the fight against China from the safety of their bunkers. But as communication and cohesion crumbled, they became fragmented. Even so, they ensured their bases were equipped with top-tier defenses from 2077. Force fields, plasma turrets, and autocannons safeguarded their locations, while patrols of elite troopers armed with advanced weaponry secured their borders. Their leadership had two distinct visions. President Dick Richardson sought to restore America by enforcing strict policies rooted in maintaining a genetically pure human population. Richardson believed that America could only be rebuilt if free of mutation and contamination, focusing on establishing a world where only true humans would thrive. Then there was Eden, an artificial intelligence embodying the ideals and rigor of America's leaders before the bombs fell. Eden's approach was even more absolute, seeing mutants and other contaminated beings as a disease to be eradicated, willing to sacrifice everything to restore America's purity. Both of these leaders aimed for a similar outcome, a new America, rebuilt and preserved in the image of the old. They envisioned a society free from the horrors of mutation, chaos, and lawlessness. But to reach this vision, they had to confront the reality of the wasteland. The wasteland was unforgiving, with raiders lurking in every corner, feral ghouls wandering the ruins, and super mutants terrorizing anyone unfortunate enough to cross their paths. People like Eulogy Jones enslaved children and traded human lives unchecked. Caesar's legion, an authoritarian empire of brutality, sought to dominate all opposition, including the new California Republic, aiming to merge its civilian structure with the legion's brutal militarism. Even the Brotherhood of Steel, while purporting to protect technology, would sooner shoot a wastelander than allow them to retain a piece of tech. In this landscape, the Enclave saw itself as the sole authority capable of imposing order. However, the Enclave's ideals of purity made coexistence with mutants impossible in their eyes. To them, mutants were a threat to the future of pure humanity. Allowing mutants to mingle with the pure human population risked genetic degradation. If a pure human and a contaminated human had a baby, the child could be mutated if the mutation occurred in the parent's reproductive cells. They could be born with visible deformities like webbed fingers, cleft palates, or physical limitations, and might carry genes that made them vulnerable to severe environmental triggers, leading to health issues or even a complete breakdown of humanity's genetic stability. When mutations affect the mating habits of species, different traits that would otherwise benefit procreation are compromised. In asexual lineages, these mutations are always passed on, making them critical to whether the lineage survives or goes extinct. Behavioral mutations such as variations in mating patterns, aggressive or passive demeanors, and how individuals learn and interact further complicate survival. The Enclave viewed this as evidence that mutants and their descendants were a biological dead end, incompatible with the future they envisioned. Of course, Frank Horrigan was a mutant, and the Enclave hated mutants. However, Horrigan's unwavering loyalty to the Enclave and his hatred of other mutants earned him a second chance. Despite his mutation, he saw himself as separate from the creatures the Enclave sought to eradicate. It is likely that the Enclave had planned to eliminate Horrigan once their goals were achieved, seeing him as a tool to be discarded when no longer necessary. Many people misunderstand the Enclave's approach. If they had possessed a cure for mutation, they might have tried to save at least some wastelanders. However, the resources required to produce and distribute such a cure across the entire North American wasteland would have been astronomical, if not impossible, to gather in the post-apocalyptic world. This logistical nightmare led them to conclude that mass eradication was the only viable solution. A cruel but, in their eyes, entirely necessary step toward restoring America. If the Enclave had succeeded, they would have taken immense strides to rebuild the nation. They envisioned massive construction projects to restore cities, erecting skyscrapers that would become symbols of a new era. They would repair and design new vehicles to connect isolated communities, while their officers patrolled the streets to protect citizens from the chaos around them. Their unparalleled advancements in technology could have revolutionized medicine, developing cures and treatments to address the diseases of the post-apocalyptic world. Children could finally go to school again, instead of being sold into slavery, forced to steal to survive, or left to fend for themselves. There would be hospitals with ambulances, people could have jobs, and families could raise children in a safe, secure environment. This is the life that the Enclave could have provided, an America rebuilt, restored, and stronger. However, they believed that achieving such an ideal society required drastic action. The Enclave was convinced that heavy sacrifices were necessary for the greater good, even if that meant wiping out 90% of the planet's population. In their view, purity and progress had to be preserved, and the path to a renewed world required uncompromising measures. Rebuilding America could have taken decades, but the Enclave believed it could have been done if they won.